Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And here we go again. The studios have suspended talks with SAG-AFTRA. That is the other union that was on strike. Now, they did work out a deal with the WGA that sounds like a double-edged sword for some writers. Like the writers that will be left will get paid better, but there probably won't be as many jobs. Now, they said they were standing in solidarity with the actors, so they got theirs. Now the studios have put the brakes on that.
Well, they said basically in the headline, it says they're mad because they got offered the same terms and they're pissed about it.
They're pissed about it. So let's talk about this, because this seems to me like the studios, in my opinion, are taking their sweet old time and they're going to drag this thing out through the end of the year so they don't have to pay. They don't have to pay actors. They don't have to pay writers. Now, the writers are saying, to their credit, they said that they were going to stand in solidarity with SAG-AFTRA, because I'm like, that'd be really crappy of them to say that for months and then turn around and be like, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and go back to work and screw you guys. They said they're actually going to stand in solidarity with them. But eventually, people are going to go broke and they're going to have to do what they got to do. So we're going to talk about this. It's not over yet. It's not over yet in Hollywood. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture, news, views, and rants, guys. If you do, you'll get a woohoo. Woohoo. This broke last night, coming from Deadline. Studios declare SAG-AFTRA talks suspended. They slam the guild for rejecting terms offered to WGA and DGA.
So they want more.
They want more. We want more.
They have to, are they going to go on about designer clothes? I wonder if they don't wear designer clothes when you're picketing after we made the comments about Bob Iger.
Well, in this case, though, the actors on average, I would say a lot of them probably make more money than the writers.
Yeah.
So they
average, yes.
So I think the average, now there are actors that don't make a lot of money, obviously, if they're extras or whatever, but the average person is going to be like, oh, the poor Hollywood actors, and they're thinking immediately like, oh, they're worth millions and millions of dollars. Boo hoo hoo hoo. But there are a lot of actors out there that aren't making a lot of money.
Yeah, but there's a lot of actors out there working anyway because they got permission to do so.
Yes, that whole thing, that was weird. That was a very weird, like, we're totally on strike except for these, 20 movies that, it's okay, guys. It's not a big studio. It's fine. So after less than 2 weeks, the talks broke down. After meaningful conversations, it's clear that the gap between AMP-TIP and SAG-AFTRA is too great, and conversations are no longer moving us in a productive direction, said Carol Lombardini. It said that the talks are much rockier than usual. The collapse of talks, for at least the time being, was preceded by a proposal today from the Actors Guild that AMP-TIP decided they couldn't swallow.
I'm sure they asked for the moon.
Yeah, here's the statement below. So they're going into details here. They said the main stumbling block to the deal seems to be SAG-AFTRA's desire for revenue sharing from successful streaming shows.
I think that should be a thing, though.
I think that's fair. That's one thing that, out of this, I think my thing with the unions is guaranteeing work to people that can't pull their own weight and overpaying people that can't pull their own weight. I have a problem with. That being said, if people are bringing it, and obviously a person being on the show is what's bringing people to the show. Tom Hiddleston on Loki. They're not going to watch Loki without Tom Hiddleston.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to have him on the show. In that case, I think they should get more. But they said terming the profit split demand, which is estimated to make up around 2% of potential profits, as an untenable economic burden.
It says it costs them $2.4 billion over the course of 3-year contracts, or more than $800 million per year, to give them what they're demanding.
Yeah, I said essentially a non-starter with the studios from the moment SAG-AFTRA first put revenue sharing on the table back in early summer. The proposal has proven intractable for the parties, one of the initiators of the guild going on strike itself on July 14th. We hope they'll reconsider and return to productive negotiations soon, said AMP-TIP. Well, they did this before with the WGA. They basically said this is our best and final offer. And the version that they signed off on was not much better than what the best and final offer was. So I think the studios, from their point of view, they're like, take it or leave it, Well,
they said, AMP-TIP said that the common issues such as general wage increases, high budget SVOD residuals, and viewership bonuses, AMP-TIP offered the same terms that were ratified by the DGA and WGA, yet SAG-AFTRA rejected these.
Yeah, so that's interesting because my understanding was that the WGA and SAG-AFTRA were effectively going after the same thing. And when it came to AI, WGA writers did not want to be replaced with AI. They didn't want their content scraped. They didn't want, and the actors did not want their likenesses
or voices
taken,
used.
or voices, which I think is
understandable.
completely fair.
Yeah, I agree.
That's completely fair.
Residuals, I think, are completely fair. But yeah, you have to remember too, the studios have to stay in business, so there's no residuals at all.
That is the point here. This again, when Daddy just lost his job, his 6-figure job, you don't ask Daddy for a pony. Okay, what they did is they waited until, if they had done this a year or two ago, I think the results might have been different. It might have been easier to get what you wanted. But of course, they do it every 3 years, right? So, but now it's like, okay, now everybody's starting to go broke and we're starting to realize, there are headlines before they were on strike about how all these streamers are cutting back on shows, stuff's not performing, shows are getting canceled. Netflix is even shutting its blog down. There was news today that Netflix animation, they're canceling a bunch of movies and shows now because they can't afford it. Yeah,
it's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse, but let's ask for more money now. It should be like at this point, because it is only 3 years, I'd be like, okay, we're lucky to have work at all. So let's just kind of keep the status quo. And then next time, if things get better, but a lot of this is about people who got hired during the boom wanting to keep their jobs. They want to stay employed. And hey, who doesn't want to stay employed, right? But if there's not going to be as much content, there's not going to be as much need for people. So they're the 91st day of the strike. So they went in a couple months after WGA. SAG-AFTRA has said nothing publicly yet. The AMTIP statement Wednesday night came hours after the 5th meeting between the two sides. So they're name checking some of the people working at the studios. Universal, Ted Sarandos at Netflix. Again, Netflix, as of yesterday, I think the word was they were canceling a bunch of animated shows too, and they're pulling back on stuff. So yeah, I don't know, guys. They said it lands another blow to the $5 billion SmackDown in LA. And again, who gets hurt the most in this are those below the line workers that did not choose to go on strike.
Or people that work adjacent to the industry, but it's like, keeping the economy of the area up. Well, now that's gone to shit.
Debbie Donuts, she's making the donuts for the crew. She can't make her donuts. So I don't know, guys. This sounds pretty serious. It sounds to me like they're just like, yeah, we're done.
Interestingly enough, they've laid off the influencers. Have you noticed that? They aren't telling people that if you speak out or you talk about studio stuff, that we're not going to let you be in the union anymore ever. Yeah.
That was a huge tactical error. That actually, I will tell you, again, my personal opinion. That is what turned me against the whole, I'm like, okay, I was kind of on the fence about it. But then it was like when they started telling people like us what we could and couldn't do when we're not even members of the union, it's like, piss off. Like, you have no right to tell us what to do. Now they're probably looking at like, well, shit, if I got to work, I might have to go start a YouTube channel or do some TikTok or something.
Yeah, but they'll be good, not.
Yeah, we're not going to Skype. We won't talk about Hollywood at all. I will just do videos about my cat and exercising.
And I wonder why no one's watching.
And nobody's watching, nobody's watching.
Or they're off doing another project. They got special permission to film, so they get to keep working when everybody else has to go and, march.
Yeah, so here's all what AMTIP. So AMTIP keeps doing this. Every time one of the unions passes, and I'm sure it's a psych out, but I think they were also trying to show the general public, like, this is what we offered them, guys. And this is what they turned out.
I'm waiting to hear this.
Okay. So this is what they offered them. First was kind of success-based residuals for high budget SVOD productions. So that would probably be your Marvel and stuff, shows like that, Star Wars, stuff like that. The highest percentage increase in minimums in 35 years, which would generate an additional $717 million in wages and 177 million contributions to the pension and healthcare plans.
Yeah, so they want that on top of billions in residuals. Okay.
Yeah. A 58% increase in salaries for major roles and guest star performers' wages on high budget SVOD programs. That's pretty high. A 76% increase in high budget SVOD foreign residuals.
For the 4 largest services.
For the 4 large. So Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon, whatever. Substantial increases in pension health contribution caps ranging from 22 to 33%, which will make it easier for performers to qualify for additional periods of health coverage. Yeah, healthcare is going through the roof right now. So, I recommend you do something about that. Meeting nearly all of the union's demands on casting, including guardrails around self-tapes, options for virtual and in-person auditions, and accommodations to performers with disabilities. Compensation adjustment of 25% for singers who dance and dancers who sing. Wait. What? For singers who dance and dancers who sing, they get 25% of something. Yeah. So whether in rehearsal or photography, representing a 30% increase. These are pretty good numbers. It's not like, you get like a 2.4%. We'll give you like a 1%. Jobs I've had annually, if we were lucky, we got 3 to 5% cost of living increase.
Wage increases for stunt coordinators are 10% in the first year and outsized increases in years 2 and 3, giving the television stunt coordinators fixed residuals for the first time ever. And they said no to this?
They said no to this. Substantial improvements in relocation allowance. A 200% increase if the performer is on an overnight location for 6 months. The relocation allowance would now be payable for every season in which the performer is on an overnight location. Versus a current limit of 2 to 4 seasons. Substantial increases in Schedule F money breaks between 11 and 41%. The 41% increase applies to 1-hour television programs. The largest number of productions covers the largest number of productions under the agreement. 25% increase in 25% increase in span money breaks, covering performance capture work under the agreement that they've been looking for 20 years.
They're getting them all, so they've been waiting, and they've never happened before.
And that's what the video game people wanted. They wanted this.
Right.
So they're getting the video game people in there too.
They said no because they weren't getting enough of the other residuals they thought they should be getting.
On AI protections, advanced consent from the performer and background actor to create and use digital replicas. Yeah, I think that's important because the technology is there now to basically scan you, even from footage. You can replicate somebody from footage, their voice and everything. So I think that's important. No digital replica of the performer can be used without the performer's written consent and description of the intended use in film. That also is important because even if you give consent, you don't know how they're going to use you. Like, okay, Tom Hanks gives consent and winds up in a porno.
Right.
It's like, I didn't think
Who wants to watch that?
Lieutenant
Dan!
Oh my God. Hey, there's a kink for everybody. Prohibition of later use of that replica unless performer specifically consents to new use and is paid for it. Yeah, again, you can't replicate somebody for a show or a movie 20 years ago and then be like, you know what, we've got that person's doppelganger in the computer. We'll just fire it up and throw that. No, I think that is fair. I actually do agree with that. I am not against AI, but I do think that, when you're using a real person and you have to put some limits on it because you are taking people's stuff, their persona, their voice, whatever, without consent. A digital alteration that would change the nature of an actor's performance in a role is not permitted without informing the performer of the intended alteration and securing the performer's consent. This came up. There was a dub of a movie, and I can't remember the actress, but they basically made her mouth. It was they're dubbing it to another language, and there was some line that the actress refused to say, I think for either she thought was really in poor taste or it was against her religion or something. But she said, I'm not saying this line. So they went and they just basically just put it in, So you can't do that. You can't have, actors out there saying crap. I mean, they're doing it anyway. Speaking of Tom Hanks, he was like hawking crap on YouTube, and Mr. Beast was hawking crap on YouTube. They have these AI generated.
I haven't seen it.
So yeah. This is another pretty good deal that they're just like turning down, and the fight's over. You became an actor to get rich. You picked the wrong profession. Get the deal done and get thousands of people back.
Sounds like they're getting quite a bit to be an actor.
They
don't give normal people these kind of deals.
No, like I said, if you're lucky, most businesses, for me anyway, and working normie jobs, it's been a 3 to 5% increase. The only way you would get a bigger increase in your wages, your salary, is if you got a promotion at the company. Like if you went from being a manager to whatever, VP of whatever, then that comes with a bump.
Well, here's this one. This is all truly disgusting. People's families and lives are getting ruined. Why can't the two parties stay at the negotiating table? If you have time to go to Slate Comic-Con, what a disgrace.
Yeah, it's somebody from IATSE. So these are workers that are getting caught up. There are a lot of people that are getting caught up in this pissing match.
I feel bad for the people that are below line workers as everyone outside the business affected by the strikes.
nobody's supporting them. They're like, what the hell? They said your pain is the fault of greedy corporations, not of greedy actors. Any shift in the narrative is exactly what they want. Well,
I agree with that.
That's true.
But the thing is, it's like, you guys are getting offered an awful lot. I'm sorry. They're talking like 200% increase on fees they give you for different things. You're getting better health care than ever. They're giving people who weren't giving residuals a cover before would get residuals and coverage. They're pretty much giving you everything that you want on the AI.
Ow, this person's like talking about Fran Drescher. They said that Duncan, that's the guy, whatever, I forget.
Crabtree or whatever.
Crabtree, Ireland or whatever. And Fran Drescher are incredibly suspect with these interim agreements being, yeah, I agree with that. It's either like, look, you can't be like, oh, we're all in solidarity, guys. You can't even talk about shows at Comic-Cons. You can't be an influencer and talk about movies. But hey, what's his face over there? Yeah, they can go film a whole movie.
I know.
You know, that was some bullshit because they could keep working, right? They said they're incredibly suspect. The drama is all part of the plan, pure evil. The DGA and WGA beat you to the table, replace these two grifters. I think some of their own actors are getting sick because they probably thought that the WGA got theirs, they were going to get offered probably the same thing and it was going to be done. It was going to be over. Everybody's like, yay, the strikes are over. Yay, guys, we won. And they didn't. It's still going.
Well, I don't know. They need to figure something out. But it's like, sounds like they're getting a lot of what they want. And I think they're getting way more. I mean, the way they talk, we're not getting anything, so we walked out. And I'm like, wow, I thought, well, they must really gotten screwed. And then you're reading the list, you're like, what the hell? And when you figure all that money that they've already spent on those things that they're willing to give them, and then they want more than what they're willing to give them for the residuals, it's like, how much money do you think they're supposed to spend on you?
This person's like, if you're only making $32,000 a year in Hollywood, get another job. Not everybody's going to get an Oscar. They're not all going to be millionaires. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, guys. So this thing is far from over. And usually when they walk away for weeks, sometimes months. And they let them think
Well,
about
they're
it.
probably just doing it on purpose because to get into the new year, because that's what they're moving movies back until next year. They were pushing them back. Sounds like the studios knew they were going to be doing this.
So it's going to take longer for Hollywood to fire up because if they stopped, both strikes got worked out and they started firing up the Hollywood machine again, it's going to 6 months or a year until you start seeing some new content. Now, even if the writer's right, but they're saying they're not going to until SAG-AFTRA gets theirs, you still have to wait on the actors. So they're probably not even going to restart Hollywood until next year.
This is sad. I have not worked for so long. I need to get back to work. Please, if you have any humanity left besides your greed, solve this.
Wow. Below the line worker. So that's who's getting caught up in this shit. So, all right. Are we going to wrap it up?
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.